Some world-changing inventions show up with fireworks and fanfare. Others begin so quietly you almost miss them, like a tiny speck of light. And I kept wondering, why did it take so long to create the LED light bulb? As it turns out, there was a missing colour that researchers simply couldn't create. And once they cracked it, it quietly changed the future. That single breakthrough reshaped global energy use, transformed our screens, pushed medicine forward, and changed daily life in a developing world. And behind it all was one engineer who refused to accept what everyone believed was impossible. Today I'd like to share with you the story of the blue LED and how a small shade of light changed the world. Back in 1962, engineers managed something rather impressive. The first visible LED, a tiny red point of light. By the early 1970s we had green LEDs as well. Suddenly those little glowing dots were everywhere, on calculators, alarm clocks and stereos. But one colour you would never see was blue. Why not? You'd think that the product design labs in the age of lava lamps and mood rings would imagine that blue would be a hot seller. But the simple truth is that, at the time, blue LEDs were impossible to make. Everyone tried and everyone failed. Blue became the holy grail of LED technology. But why does it matter so much? Because without blue, you can't make white light. No white light, no LED light bulbs, no phone screens, and no dazzling multicoloured Taylor Swift concerts. Every material that should have produced blue light either cracked, overheated, or failed instantly. The world wasn't battling bad engineering, it was battling physics. But two rival materials were edging towards the breakthrough. One backed by every major lab, and one hardly anyone took seriously. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, the scientific world poured its hopes into a material called zinc selenide. It looked perfect on paper, easy to grow, theoretically bright, and chemically elegant. But in practice, zinc selenide devices degraded in hours. Crystals fractured, impurities crept in, and doping, the process of adding tiny amounts of special atoms to a material to help it conduct electricity, was a nightmare. Meanwhile, a different material, gallium nitride, sat forgotten in the dusty corners of research labs. Gallium nitride was known for being brittle, temperamental, and nearly impossible to grow without cracks. Funding agencies wanted nothing to do with it. But while the world chased zinc selenide, one outlier saw something everyone else missed. In a small chemicals company in rural Japan, an engineer named Shuji Nakamura was about to gamble everything on the world's most hated semiconductor. Shuji Nakamura didn't work at Bell Labs or a major university. He worked for Nishia, a small Japanese company best known for fluorescent powders. Nakamura became convinced that if he could tame gallium nitride's wild defects, it would unleash the purest, most powerful blue light ever created. Meanwhile, at Nagoya University, Izumu Akasaki and Hiroshi Amano had just cracked the most critical problem of all: how to grow gallium nitride crystals without shattering them. Suddenly, the impossible seemed within reach. He tested thousands of failed samples, often working through the night. And in 1993, in a moment that reshaped modern life, he succeeded. A bright, stable blue LED, the first of its kind, a tiny glow powerful enough to change the world. Because once blue arrived, the entire planet began to shift. Its energy use, its technology, and even the way millions of people live their lives after dark. When that first gallium nitride blue LED lit up, it unlocked something astonishing: white LED light. And that light triggered one of the most significant energy transitions in human history. LEDs use up to 90% less electricity than incandescent bulbs. Today, that transition prevents around 1.5 billion tonnes of CO2 emissions every year. That's the equivalent of removing 300 million cars from the roads or planting 25 billion trees. Cities felt the change immediately. Los Angeles cut more than 70% of its streetlight costs. New York, Chicago, Seoul all saw energy meters slow down. But the most profound impact happened far from the global north. Before LEDs, millions of families relied on kerosene lanterns, dim, smoky, dangerous sources of light that filled homes with fumes and cost precious money, in some cases up to 15% of a family's income. Kerosene lighting alone produced over 200 million tonnes of CO2 every year. Then blue LEDs made solar lighting cheap. Today, more than 800 million people use LED solar lamps. Children study at night, clinics stay open, businesses operate after dark. A single technological breakthrough transformed life in some of the world's most remote places. And while LEDs revolutionize the present, their descendants are already reshaping the future in medicine, agriculture, communications, and space. The blue LED didn't close a chapter, it opened a new one. In biology, tiny LEDs are being used to talk directly to cells. In the growing field of optogenetics, pulses of light can activate neurons, opening the door to new ways of treating blindness, epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, and more. Light is no longer just illumination, it's therapy. And in agriculture, LEDs are changing farming. Vertical farms use LEDs to grow crops faster while using 90% less water and almost no land. On the International Space Station, astronauts already grow leafy greens under LED arrays. Future missions to Mars will rely on LED farms to survive. Researchers are also pushing LEDs towards theoretical perfection. Devices so efficient they waste almost no energy as heat. And some that even recapture stray photons like miniature solar cells. Today, engineers are shrinking LED crystals into micro-LEDs, so small they become individual pixels. These could power the next generation of phones, TVs, and augmented reality glasses, brighter, longer lasting, and dramatically more efficient than our current technology. Light is also becoming a communication tool. In labs, Li-Fi uses flickering LED beams to transmit data, much faster and more securely than Wi-Fi. Your living room lamp might one day deliver your internet. The invention of the blue LED solved one of the hardest problems in materials science. Its descendants may solve some of the hardest problems in the century ahead. Decades of failed experiments, 2 rival materials, and 1 engineer who refused to give up. From that journey came a tiny blue spark that now lights the entire world. It cut billions of tons of CO2, it powers the screens we stare at every day, it brings electricity and opportunity to communities far from any grid. And it's paving the way for breakthroughs in medicine, communications, and food. All from a single colour that refused to exist until it did. If you enjoyed this story of science, persistence, and world-changing innovation, please hit like, subscribe, and let me know what story of invention or discovery you would like to explore next. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next episode of How the World Was Changed.